start by thanking you all very much for coming this evening. And, you know, when I first came up here, I thought, a barn. And then I thought, you know, that's perfect. Rural America still matters. And more than that, I'm just a servant. And I'm also a servant of you and God. And I think keeping that at the forefront as a politician, and I hate using that word, I would rather use the word statesman, I think is what we need to do and what kind of people we need to have in Olympia. Now, as far as re-election is concerned, one of the first things I encountered when I was over in Olympia was somebody said, the most important thing for you to do, Matt, is to get re-elected. And I said, no, it's not. The most important thing for me to do is to do the right thing and to obey the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the state of Washington. And so from the very first day, I started off on kind of an awkward foot with some people over there in the cesspool of Olympia. And by the way, I hope I don't smell too bad. I just came back. We finished last night at 1 in the morning. We raised taxes by $800 million. And the budget that we passed only cut spending by 1%. 1%. And that is after Olympia grew the size of government 40% over the last 4.5 years. Now, I don't have to be a rocket scientist. I'm a lawyer. I mean, that's way down on the totem pole. To understand, that's the wrong direction for the state of Washington. I've been receiving email upon email from business leaders and businesses in our community. They're going to shut down and move to Idaho because it's a 20-mile drive to a better business climate over there. Those are the issues that we're facing. I believe we have one last great shot to turn this country around, to turn this state around. I really do. And it's going to come up here in November. Amen. Yeah. And you all have to be a part of that. And I don't use I very often because no person can do this on their own. You elected me to be pro-life. I went over and I introduced one of the very first pieces of legislation to require mandatory ultrasounds in the state of Washington and also to require parental consent. Now, we had a recent story over at Ballard High School, if you heard about that, where a 15-year-old girl was taken out of the classroom, ferried to an abortion clinic without her mother knowing about it. No state, except Washington, on these issues is as liberal. Now, understand that. We are an outlier with the rest of the United States. Now, that's including California and New York. You can believe that. You elected me to be pro-gun. I was one of the first legislators to introduce the Firearms Freedom Act in the state of Washington and in the country that says if your firearm or your parts are made in Washington, they stay in Washington, the federal government has no jurisdiction. 7 states took our model legislation, with the exception of Montana and Tennessee, and have passed it and have had it signed into law. That is challenging the federal government and putting it back into its constitutional box at the state level. That's what we have to do. You also elected me to help put the federal government back into its constitutional box, and Washington State was the 3rd state in the country to introduce a resolution reclaiming state sovereignty under the 10th Amendment, and we have been a leader in that movement for 2 years now. That included a bill to nullify nationalized health care in the state of Washington. That means to opt us out of Obamacare in the state of Washington. Now, the Democrats wouldn't allow that a hearing, but Idaho took our language. God bless them, they passed it and signed it into law. So even though people say, Matt, why do you do that? It's never going to get a hearing. Even though it didn't get a hearing, the legislation was drafted and other states have taken that and now are passing it into law. So we can still be a leader even though the Democrats are blocking us over in Olympia. I want to also say this, that we're facing hard times ahead, and we have to get to know each other as friends and neighbors. I'm there fighting, and I will continue to fight tooth and nail to restore our constitutional republic, to fight for freedom, because I believe it's that simple, that freedom creates prosperity, that it's freedom that reduces poverty, and that it's freedom that increases charity. I think that's the simple concept that we need to get back to. And then I would lastly add that it's gun ownership that ensures freedom. And so when we sit in a barn tonight, we kind of get back to America's roots. Because America started in farmlands, started on farms, and now today rural America is completely ignored, eastern Washington being specific. I want to say one more thing about transportation while I'm thinking about it. How many of you have heard that Spokane gets more money in taxes for road projects than it gives out? How many of you have heard that? Raise your hand. Okay, the truth is, Spokane only gets 70 cents back on every dollar it sends over to Olympia. Of the top 7 counties that are what are called donor counties, that give more money than they get back, 6 of them are in eastern Washington. 6 of them. Now, we need to get more people that are fiscally conservative and socially conservative in Olympia. And what I hope to do through my campaign is to empower people to run at the local level for positions, and also at the state level, including people like Mike Baumgartner, who's here tonight. Raise your hand wherever you are, Mike. If you don't know Mike, he's running against Chris Marr, okay, for the state senate. We need to get people like that elected. So I want to empower people now and use the 4th District as a platform to elect other people that share those same values. And speaking of social conservatives, I helped lead the fight on R71 and get it on the ballot so that we could actually put it to a vote of the people on the issue of same-sex marriage. Now, while it failed on the ballot, one thing did happen. We got the case regarding political speech all the way to the United States Supreme Court that's going to be heard here on April 28th. If you're not familiar with that, if you sign a petition, some folks wanted that to be disclosed so that they can harass and intimidate you. And we said, no, you can't do that. Of all the cases that have come before the Supreme Court, this is probably going to be one of the most important in the last 20 years. And we got it out of Washington State because we took the lead, even though we lost on that ballot initiative. I want to end by saying something else, too. We need candidates at the county level. We need candidates at the local level. And I'll share a story. Cheryl McGrath, many of you know, she ran for cemetery commissioner. People say, what's cemetery commissioner do? And I asked the same question. What do they do? They have a budget of about $16,000, and they maintain the cemetery. She won by 60% of the vote because she showed up and ran for office. She ended up being the deciding vote to prevent a tax increase as cemetery commissioner. Those are the types of folks that we need at the local level. And I want to highlight one person here who's running for county commissioner, and I believe he's one of those people that share those values. His name's Jeff Holy. Jeff, raise your hand.
Yeah, good job.
And I also saw John A. here come in here as well. John, raise your hand. But the bottom line is, who is back there? I can't. And running for county prosecutor, Dave Stevens.
That's right. Yay!
Well, we do need money for campaigns. And we do need money to be able to empower folks for campaigns. Unfortunately, due to a PDC technicality that we only learned of 2 hours ago, and you gotta love that, bureaucratic rules like that. I mean, I can't ask for money tonight until 11:59.
Stay here.
I can't ask for money. I was talking and I said, well, you know, my mind was going. I said, well, can I suggest money? I can't ask for it. I can't ask for money, but I know there's some folks here that do want to support financially, and I appreciate that. But I wanted to make sure that got out.
Matt, can we ask for you?
No. according to the PDC, you can't.
Isn't that a violation of your First Amendment rights?
I think so. Maybe we need to change that law.
Yeah, post in a check.
Those are great ideas.
From 3 hours later on the East Coast.
But I tell you, that rule itself shows the ridiculous nature of Olympia right now. Hamstringing business, hamstringing people coming home trying to raise money for campaigns. Incredible. It just shows how ridiculous Olympia's gotten. And I just want to say, if you believe in me, and you know that I'm going to fight for you tooth and nail until my last dying breath for freedom, for the Constitution, I'd appreciate your support this coming November. And I thank you very much again for showing up, and God bless you all.